Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Herson, and I am the host of Woke Wednesdays. I'm very excited because we have two lovely guests on the show tonight, people who do amazing work with an amazing organization. So, would you like to introduce yourself? Still
Sure.
who you are?
Hi everyone, my name is Gabby. I am one of the members of FemPower, also working on the Black Mama's Day bailout. I do a lot of things, but I love gardening. I'm also a beekeeper, anthropologist. So yeah.
Cool.
My name is Ashley, and I'm also a part of FemPower. I help run the community garden. You can find us on IG. We're called Fem Fairy Garden.
Fem Fairy Garden. Yeah.
Fem Fairy Garden.
I started following y'all today.
Oh,
Please. Come
So-
through.
So thank y'all so much for being here. Like I said, we were just talking before the show, and they're doing amazing work. Cannot wait. If this is your first time tuning in, please feel free to ask questions, pose comments. These two young women are extremely knowledgeable, so let's jump into this thing. So, Black mothers in jail. This is not a topic that I hear just your everyday person kind of talk about, but yet it's an extremely important topic. So, what is it?
The topic.
Yeah, what are we talking about tonight? Black mothers in jail.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is that we want to talk about the bailout initiative, which is to bail out Black mamas specifically. And I think as like a collective, FemPower came to that decision just because we're trying to follow in the footsteps of other Black organizers, and we learned about National Bailout and Southerners on New Ground with their co-director Mary Hooks, who started this whole campaign to bail out Black mamas. So basically the idea is just like collectivizing our resources and putting in all of our efforts to try to help these people, not just with getting out of jail, which they're in pretrial incarceration, but also to get them like really needed services. So I think one of the main reasons why Black mamas is because one, Black women are being disproportionately incarcerated. The rates of Black women being incarcerated is going up, and many women in jail are mothers, and a lot of them are single parents. So we're really trying to get in there and be inclusive and try to help people that are being the most affected by these systems, while also bringing attention to cash money bail, as well as like this entire prison system, which just like up close it's very jarring and traumatizing and completely inhumane.
it's ruining our communities, and we're trying to. One of FemPower's biggest focuses is community and inclusivity, and in order to do that, we need to free our people. And cash money bail is not it. They are holding our people in cages because they cannot afford to post bail. And it's interesting to see what happens when we do post bail, that most of the cases are dismissed, and when they can't afford it, they usually have to plead guilty, take a guilty plea, because it's the only choice they have. So they get stuck in that system, and we're trying to help in that way, raise this money. That's what we're raising the money for, is to post bail for these moms.
So real quick, before we get into that, if I may ask real quick, so one thing that you mentioned just now was cash money bail is not the way, right? So could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because for someone who doesn't know, who has never had anyone go to jail or anything like that, so someone goes to jail for something they did,
Right.
quote unquote,
Right.
and then they can post bail if they have the money to do
If
so.
they have the money.
Right, so that will release them.
Yes.
Or they stay in there.
Yes. And I think the most important thing to understand is this. Like, let's say you get arrested. And also the things you can get arrested for and end up in jail for are like, you could have an expired license and get pulled over, a suspended license. You can have a lot of parking tickets. You could have been, homeless and get arrested. So you can get arrested for any number of things. And once you're in jail, they set your bail. You go before a judge. They set a price depending on if you've had priors, whatever your situation is. The judge decides how much your bail will be. Now, if you can't pay the bail, you end up sitting in jail. And the most important thing to realize about that is that you could be completely innocent. So you could spend over a month, sometimes people spend longer in jail, literally just waiting for their trial to be seen as innocent or guilty. So even within our own like system and constitution, you're supposed to be found innocent until proven guilty, but this is the reverse, where basically you're just in jail because you can't afford it and you're being treated like you're guilty. And the other thing is, when you spend a long period of time in jail, you get very desperate. It's a very difficult, violent environment. And a lot of the times you end up pleading guilty because that seems like the only solution. And most of the time you're encouraged to plead guilty.
Yeah.
And real quick, so you mentioned an important point about you're being physically separated from your family,
Yeah.
contingent on the potential that you are guilty.
Maybe.
Right? So you could, like you said, you could be innocent.
Yes.
And what we know about historically and statistically and presently is that racial profiling is a very real thing. And that implicit and explicit biases are also very real things. And oftentimes black people are targeted.
Yes.
Amongst cisgendered women, it's usually black women who are targeted the most.
Yes.
While they could be completely innocent.
And also acknowledging trans women as well are incarcerated at very high rates. Queer people, but also I feel like the fact, like, racial discrimination happens in so many different ways in our society. It begins, like, in terms of getting arrested, it begins with like the profiling, the policing, being arrested, but it literally continues as you go through the entire system. So one of the things we were also learning about was how, like, even the amount of bail that is set is going to be higher statistically for somebody that is black or of a minority group. So one of the statistics we learned was that, like, black men's bail is set at 30% higher than white men. So even in that way, it's like your bail will be set higher and it's going to be more difficult for you to pay. But the other thing that you might find kind of shocking is, like, sometimes it's not just about the price of the bail. I mean, you would be really shocked to find that there are bails that are $1, like literally $1. But if you don't have someone to go and pay that $1 for you, you will sit in jail.
So question, so can someone not pay it themselves?
Yes, but I'm not entirely sure how that works, because actually when we were bailing out our first mom, she told us that she saw somebody pay their $1 bail. And then I did research and I found out that, like, $1 bail is a thing. And that there's even, like, activists in New York that they go in person for somebody that they don't even know to just pay $1 to a bail bond.
So they just go ask, hey, how much is...
Hey, it's $1, they go and they pay and they free somebody out of jail. Literally.
Wow.
There are activists that do this in New York. So, like... You know, those are things that, like, it may seem sometimes like it just has to do with money, and I think the cycle of poverty is a huge, huge part of that, because this is, like, criminalizing poor people.
Absolutely.
But it's also an aspect of just, like, it becomes difficult to get out of the system once you're in it, even if you have money, even if you have a support system, even if you have people that want to help you. So it really does swallow you whole.
Absolutely. And we're talking about... And Ashley, please feel free to jump in at any point. Anyone, popcorn style, around WokeWednesdays. We're talking about systemic racism, systemic classism, and what a lot of people may not know is that post-emancipation, 1865, slavery, the number one reason that black people were being arrested and sent to prisons and jail was for vagrancy, so for being homeless. So when you've been a slave and your family's been slaves for your entire lives and generations, you literally have nowhere to go. So you're literally taken and put into prison, into work camps, internment camps, concentration camps, call them what you want to. And what we're seeing in a way that are some parallels that with the black mothers that y'all have been bailing, they literally have nowhere to go afterwards, right? Because some of them have lost their homes.
Yes.
So maybe would y'all like to share a little bit about that?
Well, what happens is that when you get stuck in jail, you aren't working, you're not making any money. I think one of our mamas had a place but was evicted because she was, in jail for like over a month, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And
she lost her job.
She lost her job as well
because she couldn't show up. Yeah.
This is a super difficult situation to get back into, and it's hard. It's harder even for, like, a black woman to come back into society. Like, after that, you have a record, and you're trying to find a job and trying to find a place to live. These are really difficult things to do without a support system.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do.
it seems like it's difficult to do it even with a support system.
No, yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
that's why our initiative, like our fundraising initiative, like our goal is so high because we host them, we like put them in we give them some money for rent, some groceries, a place to stay, a phone, like in any way that we can support them.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I'm not sure if everybody knows what y'all are doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are y'all doing? What is this initiative?
So this initiative, like we said, started out through National Bailout Collective and Southerners on New Ground. And basically the goal was like we want to bail out mamas, black mamas for Mother's Day, and this started in 2017. And so this is like a national campaign, and we are like the Miami chapter that is doing this campaign. So we're in partnership with them, and we're like often in direct communication with them about strategizing and how to go about these things. But the main thing is that we have this fundraiser going on that ends May 19th, and we're trying to raise funds not just to bail out black mamas, but also to get the resources that they need after. So we're trying to provide 90 days of like different services, so that could range from like helping them get housing, helping them get medical services, anything that really they need, and also just like to provide them with community support, love, like I think sometimes you just focus on the survival basics, but we need so much more than that to thrive. So we're also trying to offer them those things too, and just to like empower them, because in reality people have the resources within themselves, like they have the ability to make their lives better. They just need like outside support and resources, and to be shown that like people care about them and care about their well-being.
And it's interesting because oppression like is organized. Oppression is systemic.
Yeah.
So to pull people out, we also need sometimes systemic answers and systemic forms of help.
Yeah.
And it seems like y'all are definitely doing that. But I have a question. Why is a fundraiser ending?
Actually, that's kind of a question mark, because I think we started this with with the idea that it would end, but we're realizing that this work has a lot of momentum. It's basically the backbone of our society, and we're addressing it, and we're realizing that it's just so much bigger than we all think, and that this is important work that needs to be done like all year round, not just
Absolutely.
So I think that's definitely something that we are thinking about as an organization, because we also just recently became a nonprofit. I will say, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's been a
we
whole
were
thing.
lucky. Yeah,
It's expensive too.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work, and also just like the amount of work, and our entire team, we've really been super dedicated to this for like more than a month now.
How many people are on the team?
It's more than 15 people. I mean, so we have like a core team of, I would say, between 15 to 20 people that are like planning events, and then like within that core team, we have a group of people doing logistics, a group of people doing fundraiser, a group of people doing like comm stuff, like communication.
So all of you,
organized.
We're organized.
Yeah.
But even within that group, right, we have like our core group, we have even more people within the collective that show up as volunteers in any capacity that they can. So this has really been like a community effort in every sense of the word. People have literally shown up in any way that they can. So it means a lot, and it's also just shown us like what our collective power is, frankly. Like it's very easy to feel like it's not possible, but when you have a group of people like just doing what we can, like just we're gonna get it done. Like that's really what the mindset is. We're gonna get it done.
We were even able to surpass our fundraising.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that.
Yeah, so
but you're still taking donations.
We are 100% still
So
taking
please
donations.
donate.
Of course.
Until May 19th.
Donate. Yeah.
So 100% we're taking donations. I think another thing is also for the future, we do want to continue this work. But as of right now, we're also following the Mother's Day campaign. So we're like following this campaign of this national collective. But I think we all do see that as like a lot of potential in the future to just like continue raising funds so we continue doing this work. I also want to say like this is extremely rewarding, but like you were saying, even with a support system, this work is really difficult. It's really hard sometimes to find services for people, to find adequate housing. I mean, Miami is already a place that is very discriminatory based on race, based on class. So like
Miami's racist.
What? So Miami's already extremely racist and discriminatory to people that are trying to find work, and even like an article came out recently on the statistics on that. So like even if you're doing the best of the best, there's still things you have to face.
Yeah.
So if you have a record, or if something has happened to you, you know, like you've lost your job, you've lost your housing, it becomes even more difficult. And we're doing our best to provide those services with like the best quality we can, and I think that's our priority. I think sometimes like people want to hear like, oh, you've bailed out 10 people, you bailed out 20 people, but like we would rather bail out people and know that we can provide them with what they need than just try to like have a really nice number.
And there is this kind of romanticization of like numbers.
Yeah.
People love to hear that you did 100 people, like wow, like that. But you could
trying to like keep them from going back into the
exactly.
system.
You're
like,
trying to be sustainable.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you saying that. One of my fraternity brothers, Lion Brothers, just got on. The one thing he always tells me is that no matter how much work you've done, like there's still more work to do.
Always. And it's a lifetime. It's lifetime work.
Absolutely. Because this is hundreds of years of oppression.
Yeah.
Literally building up. And I want to ask y'all about something y'all mentioned before the show. So systemic discrimination and systemic oppression can be a very difficult thing to kind of break down, because it works in multiple ways. It's a system, so there are multiple things working simultaneously. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual process. So you have the money to bail out, let's say someone, right? Now, once you pay, someone would assume that, oh, you paid it, oh cool, they're getting out.
They're out.
But that is a myth.
That's probably like the easiest part of it.
That's like the part you think will be
The hardest is actually like the easiest.
So could you talk us through even though that
the process?
Because that y'all have had some horrible experiences with that. I don't think a lot of people really know about.
Right. So we've bailed out 2 mamas already, which is amazing. But
congratulations.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you. It's really amazing.
Again, if you're just getting on, real quick, sorry. We're talking about Black mothers in jail. If you would like to donate to help bail them out, follow at FemPowerMIA. I posted them on the story. All you have to do is swipe up. It'll take you straight to the GoFundMe, and you can just donate. All you have to go is my story. Just swipe up. You'll see them. So please donate as much as you can, or as little as you can. I'm sure we'll be happy to take anything.
Yes, anything.
So please, yes.
Sorry. The question, could you repeat again?
Yes, the process of bailing out.
The process of bailing out. Okay, so yeah, like you said, we have funds. You would think like it's super easy. And it is a simple thing. You go to a bondsman, you give them the person's information, you pay the amount, they give you a receipt, and then they get in contact with the jail. And then
just walk out.
And you just, so, but that's, in reality what happens is like there's a whole other system of processing that like we're not a part of, the jail is a part of. And so what they told us at first was it would take max 8 hours for the person to be released. The first mama we bailed out, we posted bail at 9 a.m. and she was not released until the following day at 4 a.m. And we were constantly trying to find out when she would be released. We were calling. Yes. And we were told like it was unusual, all this stuff, but then the exact same thing happened with the second mama. So, I mean, it's just an extremely inefficient system. Even like the way that they're supposed to run it, they're not really running it that way.
And you said they only had one phone call, right?
Yes. So when they are released, they're given one phone call to try to contact someone to pick them up. And if no one answers that call, like you were given a call, that's that. And the other thing is they didn't just release them at 4 a.m. They also released them in downtown when the buses aren't running, the trains aren't running,
downtown
no shelters.
Miami. Downtown Miami.
Yeah. There are no shelters, no walk-in shelters, so none of the shelters are open. The only thing open is like a McDonald's.
And at the incorrect facility, right, that you were initially told.
Right. So we were told by the bondsman, by the people like in the jail that they would be released from TGK, which for some reason, regardless of where you're being held, everyone is released at TGK. But then we found out after the person had been released that there's a city ordinance that from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., if you don't physically walk into the jail, claim them as family, then they will just assume that there's no one to pick them up and drop them off in downtown. in the pretrial detention.
So no phone.
No phone, no
one to
money,
call.
no identification.
It could be cold outside. Could be winter time.
Yeah, it could be cold, but more than that, it's also dangerous.
Dangerous, yeah.
It's, nighttime, 3, 4 a.m. Like, it's extremely scary to be driving around looking for somebody. And, like, obviously this is not about, our experience doing this. This is about these people and what they're going through. But just the reality that every single day, people are being dropped off at 3, 4 in the morning with no resources, maybe someone to pick them up, maybe not. And this just also perpetuates all these cycles. Like, a lot of people come out and they're homeless and they've lost their phone. They don't have their IDs on them. Their family, something might have happened, so maybe their family's not as receptive into taking them in. Like, there's so many different reasons as to, like, what can happen to somebody afterwards.
Sex trafficking is a very real thing.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. It's, horrifying to think about it. And it was extremely, extremely scary. The second mama we bailed out, we were looking for her everywhere. And because we were calling on the hour and we were told, like, oh, she had been released an hour ago. And so, like, obviously it was just, like, a gap of time miscommunication. We had to, like, rush over to downtown to pick her up. We had been waiting for her at the jail. And it's really scary to be looking for somebody, not knowing where they are, and you have no way to communicate with them.
You've never met these
and
women.
we've never met
They
her
don't know
before.
what you look like.
They don't know us, and so they're also just, like, betting on the fact that we told them, like, hey, we're gonna do this. So luckily we were able to find her at, like, 8 or 9 in the morning. Like, everything went fine in the end.
She ended up walking too.
But she
You said
ended
miles,
up,
like,
she ended up having to
miles
walk.
away.
Yes, so, like, all these things happen to people every single day with no support system. Like, with no one that's, like, looking for them, with nobody that,
Like, could you just imagine, like, being in that situation, like, yourself?
Yeah.
Like, it's terrifying.
Honestly, like, a lot of people can't imagine themselves being without their phone for an hour.
Yeah.
So,
no,
like,
it's crazy.
But the Wi-Fi went out. Like, where am
Yeah.
I? Like, this is
Yeah.
This is horrible.
But this is just something, it's just how our system is running, and it's kind of like shocking, like, once you learn, like, how the system is, like, oppressing our people and, like, just leaving us, like, without nothing, like, just really just stripping us
Without nothing.
every sense of humanity.
Yeah, and I mean, and also it's just, like, the other thing I think that is a common question is just, like, what did they get arrested for? Like, what was the offense? Was it a violent or a non-violent offense?
She said that somebody got arrested for just calling the police 911 too many times.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I've been learning as well, both through, like, all of this organizing. We've had to encounter a lot of different systems that we're not familiar with, and if you're not up close with, you just wouldn't know these things. And also, I think, like, our larger society, the way that we treat people that have been incarcerated, either through popular TV, through media, sensationalism, like, I think we have an idea of who is being incarcerated, what they've done, what they look like, how they behave. And in reality, the majority of people in jail, which is like 70%, are there in pretrial incarceration.
That's insane.
You mind repeating that for us?
70% of people that are in jail are in pretrial incarceration.
Wow.
So that's already 70% of people that, like, we don't even know.
You could be
truly innocent. They could be innocent, and in fact, many people are innocent.
Absolutely.
And also, I think it's a question of legality. Like, do you believe that people should be in jail for the things that are found to be illegal against the law? So, we had to sit in bond hearings because at first it was actually very difficult to find the moms to bail out. And we got help from a public defender. And that's how we've been able to, like, actually help people truly, because they've been helping us, like, find people. But before that, we were sitting in bond hearings. And I mean, the things that people would be arrested for, like Ashley was saying, like, calling 911 too many times, camping out in your car, aka being homeless, loitering, having a suspended license, having priors, disorderly conduct, like, I mean,
or just for
drug
being black,
use.
because
straight up, because and also
yeah.
the charges don't. Whatever the charges are doesn't necessarily, you don't really know what happened. And I think I've learned from multiple people, including this public defender, like, whatever their rap sheet is, you cannot take that with a grain of salt, because the people that are deciding those charges, that are charging you, are already, first of all, using a system that is completely, like, messed up, discriminatory, fucked up, yeah. And then on top of it, like,
they're ruthless.
Yeah, they're ruthless, and they can charge you it's at their discretion. So, oftentimes people are charged with, like, resisting arrest. And people can be charged with that because they're asking, like, well, why am I being arrested right now? Oh, you're resisting arrest. Like, so very easy to judge based on the charges, like, oh wow, this person did this person's a horrible person, but in reality, like, you don't really know. And I think there's the deeper question of, what if someone has done something horrible? How are we choosing to treat people in our society? How are we choosing to deal with that? How are we choosing to rehabilitate them? How are we choosing to go about healing? I think as a collective, FemPower does not believe that we're going to heal people by like sticking them in violent situations. Exactly. So like, you know.
Real quick, look, I want to read something here. Jose is asking, if you're quote unquote innocent until proven guilty, end quote, then why do they detain you where you would be if you're proven guilty? What's the underlying message saying? I'm not sure if I'm fully understanding that.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure what the question is.
So if you're innocent to proven guilty, then why do they detain you where you would be if you're proven guilty?
They're asking why do they detain you if you're not guilty?
Because they're trying
because you have to go through a court case to determine that.
You have to get a trial, and one of the ways that they want to make sure you make it to your trial is to jail you, and then they make you pay a money bail, and then with the incentive that if you go to trial, you'll get that money that you paid back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing too that I was kind of encouraging on the show is just knowledge. So reading, to me, has been life-changing. A book that I would recommend that a lot of kind of activists and organizers read is The New Jim Crow. New Jim Crow kind of breaks down mass incarceration from its inception, so post-slavery, if we call it that, to new forms of slavery. So it's really important history that is oftentimes dismissed and erased from the broader context of American history. If you have Netflix, 13th is a great documentary if you don't like to read.
True, yeah.
13th is basically that book, like in film. Their First Civil Right by a Japanese professor out of Princeton. She's in charge of the African American Institute there at Princeton. First Civil Rights, phenomenal book. I can actually post a bunch of books regarding incarceration if y'all would like. But this is really important to understand how these things work. Because I've been told by people that, why would they get arrested if they weren't doing anything?
Right.
This kind of naive, it's not a malicious
it's not.
kind of question, but it is naive because they may not.
It's more trusting of the system.
Yes.
I think.
Go ahead, Ash. I think that maybe they have never experienced it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
That's
they're not in close proximity to somebody who's been arrested or has been in the system.
Yeah.
And we know why, because you're probably not black. You probably haven't been.
Maybe of a certain class.
You're probably. You're.
And I think also we all grew up in this system, and something that we've really been exploring within FemPower, either through book club or just group discussions, is we live in a society that believes in punishment as a form of justice. Like punishment. We're gonna be punitive to people because we feel upset, hurt, whatever it is. And I think honestly, yes, we can talk about mass incarceration, we can talk about statistics, all this stuff, but you have to ask the deeper question of how do you heal a society? How do you heal a person? How do people make up for their wrongs? So you could do wrong. It's not about if someone has done right or wrong. It's about we don't believe this system is even holding people accountable. There's no real healing going on. If you've done something horrible to somebody, a very common thing that happens when people are incarcerated is that they have to go through all this turmoil and guilt of whatever harm that they've caused.
And abuse. Because they are abused and assaulted.
And it's a cycle.
And
it's a cycle. So we have to ask ourselves, what do we think is justice? Is justice punitive? Is justice doing worse to someone than they did to others? Is justice violent?
Point,
And I think for a lot of us, we have been taught that is what's fair. If someone harms you, they should be locked up, far away. We don't have to deal with them. We don't have to think about them. But in reality, there will always be another person to show up, always causing hurt, causing harm, because there's a cycle of abuse that is not being addressed.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important to really grapple with.
That's a great point, yeah.
Because then, of course, you think deeper about were they detained because da-da-da-da? It's is that the avenue that should be taken to begin with? If you have an issue, if you're not, being accountable for your behaviors. I mean, even someone that I've learned a lot from is Mariana Cava, that she is an activist. I would really suggest you guys look her up. She's a prison abolitionist. And something that I've learned from her through listening to her podcasts and stuff is that
What's her name again?
Mariama Kaba. Kaba. I might be
C-A-B-A.
botching her name. Yeah, Kaba. I think it's with a K.
Okay.
But she's very active online, so if you even look up like that, you'll probably find her. She's a prison abolitionist.
Okay.
But I think it's about like asking that deeper question about like how we choose to treat people, how we choose to go about justice, and like she is someone that's a survivor of rape and sexual assault. And one point that she made was like, if someone had asked me right after my rape or whatever what I think that person deserved, it would be death. It would be like the worst punishment. But hurt and pain is not a place to come to justice. It's not a place to make those decisions. So I think we have to really, really dig deep about like what kind of a society we want. Like frankly, I want to be in a society where if you've done wrong, you can be held accountable for it, but you can also be held to your greatness and do better and be better and be able to be back into your society. Being isolated, being also, when you enter the criminal justice system, this is another thing I learned from Mariama Kaba. When you enter the criminal justice system, you're from the get-go to get out of that situation of being in jail. You're just trying to deny, right? You're trying, like, there's a lot of people, and I'm talking about for people that are in much serious cases than, like, you might need to take a guilty plea, right? So let's say you've done something really horrible, like rape, right? And you're guilty of that, but you're already in a mindset of, like, well, if I deny this, you know, you're not really coming to accountability. You get off on the charges, hopefully, and you're set free. Yeah. Because that's the premise, how are you really going to be accountable for the harm that you've done? All you're focused on is getting out of jail, not being in that situation. You know, how can you be truly held accountable? How can you make up for whatever it is you did? Maybe not necessarily with that person, but to your larger community, to your larger society. I mean, I just don't think it's a way for people to be accountable if they've done wrong. And I also don't think it's a way for people to find assistance. There's so many people in jail that have mental health problems. There's a lot of people in jail that have drug issues. I don't think being held in a cell is going to help them with that.
It's wild. Like, people, so like for me at least, and please feel free to disagree or agree. Like, legality is not synonymous with morality.
Exactly.
Like, things are deemed like legal and illegal. That doesn't make it right. Slavery was legal.
Right.
Up until the 1990s, in most states in the United States, a husband could legally, like, sexually assault his wife.
Yeah, rape.
That was legal. A lot of things that are extremely horrible have been legal.
Well, look at the abortion laws that are trying to be passed.
Oh, let's not.
No, we don't need to go there, but I mean, that's a perfect example.
You're absolutely right.
It's just like, just because it's, and I think we fall into that trap of thinking, like, just because it's legal, oh, well, they broke the law.
It must be right.
And it's like, well, that's a question of legality. Do you think that someone should be sitting in jail because they're homeless? Do you think someone should be sitting in jail because they didn't have money and their license is suspended and they got pulled over? Do you think someone should be in jail because they camped out somewhere and they shouldn't have been there?
You know what's interesting? I went to the Indigenous Peoples Movement, the march in January in DC.
You can get arrested for that too.
Yes, you can. You can get arrested. So the other day I left my apartment and I forgot my wallet, and I immediately turned back around before I left the complex. I was like, oh shit! I'm like, if I get pulled over, I could literally, because now at that point I'm undocumented.
Right.
Right, because I have a certain look, I could literally be taken to a detention center.
Because you don't have it,
I'm from North Carolina. In North Carolina, a Puerto Rican man was actually deported to Mexico, like in 2009, I believe. So, like, this shit is just so preposterous.
And it's also exactly what, like, that is the perfect point of, like, what I was saying earlier, too, about even their own system that's supposed to work in a certain way is inefficient, and it's not even working. Even that horrible system is not even working as efficiently and as correctly as it should, so that a Puerto Rican man can, like...
Yeah, I'm cynical. I think it's
you
working.
think it's working just right? I feel you.
The
I
way
feel you.
They was intent. Look at this. Fork isn't working.
We're ignoring that.
But you know what's wild? So when I was at this march at the Indigenous Peoples Movement, Elder Nathan, he was the one who went viral with all the white kids surrounding him.
Yeah.
So I got an opportunity to see him speak, and he was saying that prior to colonization, and colonization is kind of like my thing. I love reading about that stuff. Like, jails and prisons didn't exist.
Yeah,
no, that's the new
because there was another system, and I think that's another point, like a beautiful point too, is that there are other ways for people to be accountable to their community and to their society, and that doesn't mean they have to be arrested and treated in this manner.
First of all, prisons are basically just cages.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, they're
exactly
literally
what they are.
cages.
The system is,
Yeah.
and then the system is hijacked. Like
Yes.
we have there are politicians who are running this, who are making money from these jails now. Like it's just a way for politicians and people like judges and stuff to make money. Off of our
for private
suffering.
prisons to make money as well. But I think also it costs us money to incarcerate people. So even if you're just a numbers person, it costs $9 billion to have all these people incarcerated in these jails, and that's money that we're spending. And also it's if you're on house arrest, for example, that you're paying $2 a day to be arrested in your own home.
Yeah.
So even if you're in jail, you're paying.
We're fancy out here. Yeah.
But even if you're incarcerated, you're paying for your own incarceration. So I think I don't know. I feel like it's just persecuting the poor, persecuting people without resources. Because you'd be surprised, you could do something truly heinous and get out on bail.
Yeah, it's called it's called politicians.
Yeah.
Real
or
quick.
you might not get charged at all if you're a politician.
So Novia saying the system doesn't take into account the trauma drug dependency and abuse offenders experience that leads them to commit crimes. Ignoring these factors funnel the same people back into the system. It doesn't take into account, and
they don't care.
And yes, I think
they actually don't care. There's no effective. They have not tried to handle these issues. That's not on their minds.
Castellano Giancarlo is saying conservatives love voter disenfranchisement. And we're seeing here in Florida. So we just passed that to reinstate rights to returning citizens or past felons, if you want to call
A lot of people in FemPower
But
campaign
now-
for Amendment 4.
we also worked on that.
But now y'all know.
They're trying to basically put a tax to you have to pay to get your voting rights back.
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And I think it's just more proof of why would paying money make a difference of if you should get your voting rights back or not?
Why is money always a factor?
Why is money always a factor? I think exactly that's a great question.
Because it's
always
trying
ends
to keep the impoverished impoverished.
And we've had episodes, multiple episodes on capitalism and the way capitalism works, on fascism. Please feel free to check out those episodes. It's on YouTube. All past episodes are on YouTube. But I do want to ask y'all a question because we do live in a fucked up world. It's fucked up for many reasons. It's horrible.
Agreed.
My favorite author, James Baldwin, said to be he said a conscious black man in the United States is to constantly live in a state of rage. And I think just to be conscious, and the more conscious you become, kind of the worse it becomes. But
so you have to do something.
Absolutely,
and you can't just sit still anymore. You really
absolutely
have to go out there and
absolutely. This stuff isn't easy. It's uncomfortable. I'm sure y'all have
It's
lives
easy.
outside of this.
Yeah.
We're also doing this work. Right?
Yeah.
But I do have a question because we tend to kind of assume, because you are this, assuming that, because you are this or you're deemed as this, then you have to do this. So if you're a black person, you have to care about this issue.
Right.
So that means if you're not black, then why do you care about this particular issue?
Right.
Are you trying to be black? Are you trying to be these things? So I do want to ask y'all, so phenotypically, when people see y'all, they might assume initially, oh, these are Latino women, right?
Yeah.
So there's a look.
Depends on where you
There's-
are
For sure.
in this country because
In Miami, 100%, yeah.
In Miami, 100%. I would actually say in most parts of the United States, they would assume that this is a Latin look.
Mm-hmm.
It's incorrect, but that's, and the way we kind of come to know
Our
people is through stereotypes and all this other stuff. So you're fighting for a cause, a great cause, for freeing black women from jail. So people might say, hey, what are these women who look like this? And this is an argument that people might make. Why are they fighting for this? And please feel free to.
I think that black women are the most disenfranchised people on the planet. They deal with some of the worst of our society, while also simultaneously doing the most for our communities. And we're here for them.
I think one important thing to know is that FemPower is a Black and Brown led organization, so those will always be our priorities, whether people feel comfortable with that fact or not. I mean, those are the people that we are trying to reach the most, but also because of like what Ashley was saying, that so many people are disenfranchised, we really want to focus on embracing those people. But also I think a lot of this organizing, a lot of this work is led by Black organizers and leaders. So we are lucky enough to get to follow in their footsteps, to learn from them. You know, if you do anything involving civil rights, I mean, you're learning from like Black liberation. If you're doing any of that work, you are. So whether you realize it or not, you know, if you're fighting for women's reproductive rights, you're also following in the footsteps of Black femmes, Black women. So I think that's important to acknowledge across the board always. But also, you know, we often quote our queen, Audre Lorde, that none of us are free until we have the liberation of all women. So, like, we're not free until all women are free. We are not free when there are women out there that are unfree.
Even if your shackles look different. Right?
Even if your shackles are different. So, you know, oppression comes in many forms. And just because I don't go through your form of oppression doesn't mean that I can't be there for you, like sympathize with you, try my best to show up. And I think that's what FemPower is all about, is showing up for people in any capacity that we can.
We're here for each other.
Yeah.
We're here for our sisters, we're here for our people in the struggle, and like especially people that are incarcerated, like they need to know that people care about them, that people want them out, that people wish better for them. So,
and I understand like specifically like Black people who like are skeptical of like people coming because like to help them, like some of these efforts like have been hijacked from them, or like take the
like
away from them, or you know,
put in the guise of like charity, like white savior complex type of things.
There's definitely that aspect of it, and we are very cautious and very thoughtful and of avoiding that. We know it happens, and like we understand, but that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's
and we try and include as many as we try to keep it as inclusive as possible.
And I ask this because, so like, again, the assumptions that people make are very real. So
we've encountered that.
I'm sure, like, I hear all the time.
For
You're trying to be this because I care about this.
Right.
Oh, so Hurston, you must be this. And I'm like, nah, just like, yo, like.
Also, this separation, like, why is it that you think that issues that affect Black people just like it should only matter to Black people? Like, I personally.
That's like a tool that's also used to like
separate us, to
oppress and separated.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I think all of our struggles are involved in one way or another, interrelated. So, you know, I am not a Black woman. I'm not trying to like take on that struggle. I'm not trying to be that. But I have had my own like familial loved ones encounters with the criminal system, and even with the privileged background I have, it is traumatizing, it's draining, it's horrible. So like, I don't think it's about having to have had that specific struggle to care about it. I mean, and also acknowledging like, yes, this is at our core, this is deeply what we care about, but FemPower deals with like all sorts of issues, climate gentrification, the way we use our land, immigration, LGBTQ issues. So like, we care about our people, we care about humanity, we care about our population, and these are the groups of people that are consistently being ignored. Like, just across the board, it happens time and time again.
There are other like bailout efforts.
Yeah, and these are the people,
different people, but these are the people that we want to be there for.
Absolutely, exactly. And we were talking earlier that someone commented on y'all's page, saying that y'all are racist for only focusing on Black women.
Yeah, that's something that just comes down to, I think, like education. Like you just need to learn about what is going on. I don't think we're putting in a lot of effort to like educate and like put a lot of stuff out there, resources, letting you know like how we got to where we are.
Yeah.
And that's the work that they need to do.
That's,
you know,
that's an inner reflection for sure. I also think it's like, you know, Ashley was saying earlier that so many Black women show up for their community and for others, and there are a lot of Black organizers that organize around women's reproductive health, that organize around immigration issues,
Absolutely.
that organize around LGBTQ issues, that organize around environmental issues. So it's like,
I think separating us is taking us away
exactly,
from the
like,
real,
we're
our
all
real
in this
liberation.
struggle together,
Yeah.
and we are all involved in liberating one another. So I think like that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that this is what we're focusing on our efforts on right now. There's a lot of things that we do, but I don't think we're ever gonna apologize for focus, like ever gonna apologize for only like helping Black mamas. I mean, and understanding that like when you help one person, especially someone like a mother, you know, whether that's like a mother figure, because we also include trans women in this, you know, people that are mothers to other people, maybe not by blood, but by the way that they care for them.
Like restoring a community. Really.
You're literally restoring an entire community. You're restoring families. You're allowing for healing to happen. So it's not just one person that's affected, it's an entire network. You know, just think about your own mama. You might not have the best relationship, but like, where would you be without your mama? You know, you wouldn't be here. So I think like all of us are trying to acknowledge that struggle. And even with the 2 mamas that we've already bailed out, I can just see how like if the cards had been different for them.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
smart, sweet, capable. And it's not about saying like, well, we can help, we're just trying to do our best. You know, it's not about that. It's not even about like us. Obviously we grow a lot, we grow community, like there's so much we gain from this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like that person is capable of taking charge of their future. That person is capable of living their lives in a beautiful way. And we're trying to facilitate that. And that's what all of this is about, is facilitating people's empowerment, facilitating their ability to be self-sufficient while also knowing they don't have to be alone. None of us have to be alone in these struggles.
We shouldn't have to be alone. Yeah.
Ever. And it's also
that's
like,
what we mentioned earlier. It's
yeah.
Like I feel like the system is pitting each other against ourselves, you know, like that, you know, like the individual, like, you know, like, you
it's
know,
me
like the
against the
individual,
world.
like
yeah.
that. And you know, that's not the way the world used to run on. Like we used to run on community, and being there for each other.
Absolutely.
You know, like
It's part of these capitalist projects that we're kind of talking about.
for sure, it's definitely like at the roots of so much of these problems.
And that's why I think it's so important to really try to understand these things. Not everyone has access to books, to reading.
You should come to book club.
So
come to
there is
Liberation
something called a
Book Club.
if you can make it. Liberation Book Club. Y'all have an Instagram too, right?
Yeah.
I follow y'all. There's like a book club, like
No,
hey,
no.
It's just,
It's
Fem
Fempower
Power?
MIA,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, damn.
I'm
Okay.
like, no.
Man, I got
Fake
cussed out in
news,
Puerto Rico.
fake
man. Damn,
news.
okay. Damn.
No.
Damn,
You would have known if
damn.
you truly got cussed out.
Damn. She about went in Puerto Rican mode just now. Couldn't tell the difference between the Cuban or the Puerto Rican. It was coming from somewhere. One of the islands.
one of the islands.
So real quick, so Novia is saying all marginalized groups should come together and ally with one another because at the end of the day, we're all fighting the same fight.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's the big lie that we're told, is that like we're not all in this struggle together, and like just because, you know, like you were saying that Audre Lorde quote, like our shackles might be different, but they're still shackles.
You know what's wild? Like, I'm not even like pushing back on it. Like just like maybe like a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
Is that like you don't have to look like me for me to rock with you. Like
exactly.
you don't have to be. I could be the most entitled and privileged person on the planet. Like I don't have to be going through something to attempt to help.
Yeah,
and sometimes we think that it has to be predicated on that.
Like you have to go through something traumatizing first.
Oh, if you're not a person of color, you can't join the fight. Like nah, bro. Like we need everybody.
We need everybody.
Yeah, like, we need everybody.
Yes.
If anything, that puts you in a better position to help others because you don't have as many shackles like on you, or as many of the difficulties that a lot of the other people who are fighting this fight do.
Yeah,
you know, like everyone needs to be in this fight together.
Everybody. And with that, we're winding down. It's almost been an hour already.
Wow, holy shit.
I know.
We can keep going.
I'm a great host. And it's the wine. The wine's
That's
something.
a fact.
Whoever you are, I hope you're also sipping on something. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Cheers. Sip on something. Everyone deserves to have some good alcohol in their life. And if you're not into that stuff,
Or
hey, you
not,
know what?
yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Drink some
H2O.
tea.
Everyone deserves to have water
Our herbalist.
in their life.
Tea. Drink some tea.
Someone's innovator Guna said, "I like that middle one." I don't.
Well, I don't know what
I
that
don't
is
know
referring to.
what. I thought y'all knew them.
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
that I don't know how to take that. We're gonna
Alright.
just dismiss that.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
That's weird. Yeah. So
Maybe any last questions? Or...
I'm not seeing any last questions.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any
Well,
last
I
questions.
will say our GoFundMe account, bit.ly/freemamas. We have an event right now going on at the corner, happy hour until 11 p.m. All the
Shit, I wish I would. Oh.
happy hour 11 p.m. The ticket is $15, and all of the money from the ticket goes to our fundraiser. And whatever you buy from the bar, a percentage of it also goes to our fundraiser.
It ends at 11.
And it ends at 11. But if you
Well,
keep
nice.
buying drinks past 11, happy hour ends at 11. But if
Okay.
you keep drinking past 11, which you don't have to, but
Yeah.
a percentage of that also goes.
They're saying
to...
I love you, girls. Yeah. Cool. Are y'all going out there?
Yes,
Yeah,
we will be
So
there.
if y'all want to
so
meet them and y'all live in
come through,
Miami,
say hi.
don't be a creeper. Don't be a stalker. Don't do that shit. That shit's not cool.
Yeah,
But
please
spend
don't.
$15
Yeah.
on a ticket and give your money
Spend
to Black
$15.
Mamas.
Meet them. Meet these amazing individuals. Thank y'all so much
Thank you.
for stopping by the show.
Thank
Anything
for
you want to
friends.
tell the people?
Please reach out to your communities. Reach out to your people. We're here too. Reach out to FemPower. Whether or not you are a femme, we welcome everybody. We really want people to be informed. So if you want to be more informed, if you want to be in a community space that's inclusive and loving and welcoming, definitely hit us up and donate to Free Black Mamas.
Anything you would like to say?
Yeah, no, just everything that she said.
Hit him with the. Okay, hit him with the. Okay, we're bringing this back. Okay, we're bringing it back. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Next week we'll be doing it all over again. Thank y'all so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Please feel
Thank
free to
you,
follow them,
Harrison.
support them, and if you'd like to come out to the corner,
The corner in
the
downtown
corner,
Miami.
$15 a ticket.
$15
all
happy
goes
hour.
to
Comes
mothers.
with a drink. It all goes
It
to
comes with
Black
a drink.
Yeah.
Comes with
Oh
a-
shit! It comes with the
Yeah.
drink. Well drinks or what are we doing?
I gotta check the
You
menu.
know what?
That
It
ain't
comes with the
my
drink.
specialty,
It comes with
but
the drink.
it comes,
It
with,
comes
the
with the
drink.
drink.
And you already know how Miami charges for mixed beverages,
You're right.
so
That's
come
a good
through.
point. That's a fair point. And it all goes to an amazing cause.
Yes.
So thank y'all. Seriously, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see y'all next week.